So let me get this straight. The human was blind. Completely, utterly, absolutely blind. Not the kind of blind where you squint really hard and maybe see some shapes. No, we are talking about the medical definition of you cannot see anything, not even light, total darkness kind of blind. And this maniac, this absolute lunatic of a species, decided that sniping from 2 miles away was a perfectly reasonable career choice. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, surely this is some kind of joke, some kind of elaborate prank that humans play on the rest of the galaxy. But no, I was there. I, Commander Vex of the Colothian Defense Fleet, witnessed this impossibility with my own 4 eyes. Yes, 4 eyes. And somehow I still could not believe what I was seeing. It started 3 cycles ago when the Galactic Council decided, in their infinite wisdom, to include humans in the Korvax campaign. The Korvax were these militant insectoid creatures who had been causing problems in the Outer Rim for decades. Big problems. The kind of problems that require military intervention. So the Council put together a coalition force. Colothians, Drexians, Urathi, and humans. When I first heard humans were joining the operation, I laughed. Actually laughed. Out loud. In front of my entire command staff. These were the same creatures who had only achieved faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. 40 years. We had been cruising through hyperspace for millennia. They were babies. Adorable, primitive babies who thought chemical rockets were impressive. My second-in-command, Lieutenant Crix, he did not laugh. He just looked at me with those big orange eyes of his and said, "Sir, have you read the human combat reports?" I had not. Why would I? What could these newcomers possibly teach a civilization that had been waging war since before their planet had mammals? So Crix, bless his thorough soul, made me read them. Every single one. By the 3rd report, I stopped smiling. By the 10th, I was concerned. By the 20th, I was genuinely disturbed. Humans did not fight like anyone else. They did not follow the standard tactical doctrines. They did not respect the established rules of engagement. They barely seemed to respect physics. They just won, through sheer stubborn refusal to die combined with tactical creativity that bordered on insanity. But even after reading all of that, nothing prepared me for Marcus Thorne. We were stationed on Firebase Delta, a hastily constructed military outpost on the moon of Korvax Prime. The Korvax had been launching raids against our position every few days, probing our defenses, testing our resolve. Standard military procedure. We would shoot them, they would retreat, everyone would file reports. Very civilized, very predictable. Then the humans arrived. Their transport ship looked like someone had welded together spare parts and hoped for the best. It landed with all the grace of a drunken Urathi doing ballet. The loading ramp dropped with a hydraulic hiss, and out walked Captain Ellen Park. She was short by human standards, maybe 5.5 feet tall, with dark hair pulled back in a tight knot. Her uniform was crisp, her expression was no nonsense, and her eyes scanned our base like she was already planning improvements. "Commander Vex?" she asked, extending her hand in that bizarre human greeting ritual. I took it, carefully. Humans had this habit of trying to crush your hand when they shook it. Some kind of dominance display. Park's grip was firm but professional. "Captain Park," I said. "Welcome to Firebase Delta. I trust your journey was uneventful?" "Oh, you know," she said with a slight smile. "Just the usual. Engine failure, navigation glitch, mild radiation leak. Nothing we could not handle." She said it like she was describing a routine commute. This was my first clue that humans operated on a completely different scale of normal. "Your team?" I asked, watching more humans disembark. They moved with purpose, checking weapons, scanning perimeters, communicating in short, efficient bursts. 20 specialists, Park said. Demolitions, communications, tactical support, and our long-range asset. Long-range asset? Sniper, she clarified. Best one in the Terran Defense Forces. I nodded. Every military had snipers. The Colothian Military College taught advanced marksmanship. It was a respected, if somewhat boring, specialization. Point weapon at target. Calculate wind, gravity, distance. Pull trigger. Very straightforward. He is just finishing up, Park added. Oh, Marcus. Let's go. That was when I saw him. Marcus Thorne was tall for a human, maybe 6 feet, with short brown hair and an athletic build. He wore the same tactical gear as the rest of his unit, carried the same massive rifle case, moved with the same confident stride. Everything about him screamed professional soldier, except for the metallic visor covering his eyes, and the white mobility cane collapsed and attached to his belt. I stared. All 4 of my eyes focused on this contradiction walking towards us. Commander Vex, Park said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. This is Sergeant Marcus Thorne, our long-range specialist. Marcus stopped in front of me, his head tilted slightly, as if he was listening to my location rather than seeing it. He extended his hand. Commander, he said. His voice was calm, professional. Pleasure to meet you. I took his hand automatically, my brain still trying to process what I was seeing. Sergeant Thorne, I managed. You are. Blind? Marcus finished. Yeah, lost my sight 5 years ago. Orbital bombardment on New Hebrides. Shrapnel damage. Irreparable. But you are a sniper, I said. It was not a question. It was a statement of confused fact. The best one they got, Marcus said with a grin that was entirely too confident for someone who could not see. Captain Park was watching me with barely concealed amusement. She had clearly seen this reaction before, many times. And how? I finally asked. How is that even possible? Oh, you know, Marcus said, echoing Park's earlier tone. Stubbornness mostly. That and some really impressive technology. Plus humans are kind of ridiculous when we put our minds to something. I see, I said, immediately regretting my word choice. I don't, Marcus replied, his grin widening. But I appreciate the sentiment. Lieutenant Crix approached, his data pad clutched in his claws. Sir? The humans will need barracks assignments and weapons range access. Right, I said, grateful for the distraction. Crix, get Captain Park's team settled. Full base access. Weapons clearances. The usual. And Sergeant Thorne? Crix asked, glancing at Marcus with unconcealed skepticism. I will take the same range slot as everyone else, Marcus said. Unless you have a specialized long-distance facility? I usually practice at about 3,000 meters. 3,000 meters. That was nearly 2 miles. The standard Colothian engagement range for sniper operations was 800 meters. Maybe 1,000 if you were really skilled and the conditions were perfect. We have a range that goes to 1,500 meters, I said slowly. That will work for warm-ups, Marcus said cheerfully. Is there anywhere I can set up for actual distance shooting? Open terrain, minimal obstructions, good sight lines. The blind human wanted good sight lines. My life had become very strange very quickly. There is the northern plateau, Crix offered. It overlooks the valley. Clear lines of fire for at least 4 kilometers. Perfect, Marcus said. I will need that for calibration. Captain Park patted me on the shoulder as she walked past. Don't worry, Commander. You will get used to it. Eventually. Probably. She did not sound convinced. Over the next 2 days, I watched Marcus Thorne do the impossible on a regular basis. He set up his equipment on the northern plateau with the help of his spotter, a quiet human named Jackson who seemed equally unbothered by the whole blind sniper situation. The rifle was a massive thing, chambered in a caliber that seemed excessive even by human standards. Attached to it was more technology than I had seen on some spacecraft. Neural interface, Marcus explained when he caught me. Well, when he somehow knew I was staring. The scope links directly to my auditory cortex. Translates visual data into three-dimensional sound patterns. Wind becomes pitch. Distance becomes tone. The heat signatures become rhythm. You hear your targets, I said. I hear everything, Marcus corrected. The rifle's scope has multispectral sensors. Infrared, ultraviolet, thermal, electromagnetic. It paints the battlefield in sound. I just interpret it. I repeated. You just interpret a symphony of data that most beings could not process if they had fully functional vision. Yep, Marcus said. Also helps that I have perfect pitch and eidetic audio memory, and about 5 years of intense neural training, and a stubborn refusal to let a little thing like permanent blindness end my career. He said it like it was funny. Like losing his sight was just a mild inconvenience that he had overcome through sheer force of personality. Show me, I said. I want to see this. See this, Marcus repeated with a smirk. Man, the irony just never gets old. He settled into position, Jackson beside him with a spotting scope and range finder. The target was a Korvax combat drone captured during a previous engagement, set up at the far end of the valley, 2,200 meters away according to the range finder. The wind was variable, gusting unpredictably through the canyon. The temperature differential between the plateau and the valley floor was creating heat shimmer that distorted visual targeting. In short, it was a terrible shot. Experienced Calothian snipers would struggle with this. Many would not even attempt it. Marcus adjusted his position slightly, his hands moving over the rifle with practiced familiarity. The neural interface visor covered his eyes, small lights blinking along its surface. He was completely still, barely breathing, listening. Wind picking up from the east, Jackson said quietly. Gusting between 12 and 16 kilometers per hour. Temperature gradient causing vertical drift. Humidity at 68%. Got it, Marcus said. His finger rested lightly on the trigger, hearing the bounce off the far canyon wall. Metal resonance from the drone. Distance is 2217 meters. Elevation angle compensated. Wind drift calculated. He was silent for a moment, just listening. Then he fired. The rifle's report echoed across the valley, a sharp crack that sent local wildlife scattering. Through my observation scope, I watched the round travel. It seemed to take forever, arcing through the air, fighting wind and gravity. It hit the drone dead center. The machine exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. I lowered my scope, stared at Marcus, then at the destroyed target, then back at Marcus. How? I asked. Practice, Marcus said, already chambering another round. Lots and lots of practice, and a fundamental human belief that the word impossible is just a challenge. Lieutenant Crix joined me on the plateau that evening, watching Marcus run through his training routine. The human had been shooting for 6 hours straight, hitting targets at increasingly ridiculous distances. His accuracy rate was 93%. Most Calothian snipers were happy with 75% at half the distance. And sir, Crix said quietly, I have been reviewing human military history. And? I prompted. They have a saying, Crix continued. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Meaning? Meaning humans do not know when to quit, Crix said. They lost their entire first colony fleet to a navigation error. All 50 ships, 30,000 colonists, gone. They built 50 more ships and tried again. A plague wiped out 80% of their Mars settlement. The survivors just shrugged and kept farming. Our own sun will eventually. Aye. They are already planning how to move their entire civilization to another star system. Your point? I asked. My point is that Sergeant Thorne is not an anomaly, Crix said. He is completely typical. Humans do not accept limitations. They find them offensive, so they just ignore them. And somehow, impossibly, it works. As if to prove his point, Marcus took another shot. 3,000 meters this time. The round hit a target the size of my closed fist. This is going to be an interesting campaign, I muttered. Crix made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been existential dread. With Colothians, it was sometimes hard to tell. The Korvax attacked 2 days later. They came in force, hundreds of their warriors swarming across the valley floor, their chittering war cries echoing off the canyon walls. Standard doctrine called for defensive positions, coordinated fire teams, strategic retreats to fallback positions if necessary. Captain Park had other ideas. "Marcus," she said calmly, watching the approaching horde through her tactical display, "you have permission to engage. Free fire on all targets of opportunity." "Copy that," Marcus replied. He was already in position on the northern plateau, Jackson beside him, counting approximately 400 hostiles, with mixed light and heavy infantry, some armored support. "This is going to be fun." Fun. The human thought this was fun. The first Korvax fell at 2,800 meters. It was one of their commanders, distinguishable by the elaborate crest on its carapace. One moment, it was directing its troops. The next moment, its head exploded. The second fell 2 seconds later. Then a third. Then a fourth. Marcus was firing steadily, his movements smooth and mechanical. Each shot was precise. Each target fell exactly where he intended. He was not just killing them. He was conducting a symphony of death across the battlefield, each note perfectly timed, perfectly placed. The Korvax realized they were taking fire and scattered, trying to find cover. It did not help. Marcus adjusted his targeting, shifting to thermal imaging, listening to the heat signatures of their bodies against the cooler rock. He hit targets behind boulders, targets in trenches, targets that thought they were completely protected. "Ammo check," Jackson called out. 18 rounds left in this magazine," Marcus replied. "I have 4 more mags ready, plus the backup rifle if this one overheats." "You are doing fine," Jackson said. Command vehicle just entered the valley. Our side. 3,100 meters. "I hear it," Marcus said. He adjusted his aim, compensated for the extreme distance, the increased wind at elevation, the movement of the target. Big target. Lots of electromagnetic noise. They really should shield their command systems better. He fired. The round traveled for almost 4 full seconds before it punched through the command vehicle's armor plating and detonated the power core inside. The explosion was spectacular. The Korvax assault broke. They retreated in disarray, leaving 73 dead behind them. Marcus had fired 42 shots, 41 confirmed kills, 1 round that hit a secondary target when the primary target moved at the last second. He was apologizing for that miss when Captain Park reached his position. "Hell of a performance, Sergeant," she said. "Could have been better," Marcus muttered. "That one at 2,400 meters, I was off by almost 3 centimeters. 3 centimeters. At 2,400 meters. He was upset about being off by 3 centimeters. I approached cautiously, not entirely sure what to say. Marcus sensed my presence before I spoke, turning his head towards me. "Commander," he said. "Thoughts?" "I have many thoughts," I said carefully. "Most of them involve questioning everything I know about possible and impossible." "Yeah," Marcus said. "Humans will do that to you. We are kind of ridiculous like that." He packed up his rifle with practiced efficiency, Jackson helping him secure the equipment. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times before. They probably had. "The Korvax will come back," I said. "They always do." "Good," Marcus replied. "I could use the practice." That night in my command quarters, I filed my report to Colothian High Command. I tried to explain what I had witnessed. I tried to describe Marcus Thorne and his impossible skill. I tried to convey the sheer absurdity of a blind sniper being the most effective weapon on the battlefield. My report was sent back with a note from Admiral Tor questioning my mental stability and suggesting I take a stress leave. I did not blame him. If I had read this report from someone else, I would have questioned their sanity too. But I had seen it, with all 4 of my eyes. I had watched the impossible become routine. I had witnessed a human overcome a disability that should have ended his military career and instead turn it into his greatest strength. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a thought was forming, a disturbing thought. A thought that kept me awake that night. If humans could do this with one blind sniper, what else were they capable of? What other impossibilities were they currently treating as minor inconveniences? What other limitations were they ignoring simply because they found them offensive? The Korvax had no idea what they were up against. Hell, the entire galaxy had no idea what humans truly were. We saw them as newcomers, as primitives, as barely space-worthy beings who had gotten lucky. We were wrong, so very, very wrong. Marcus Thorne was not an exception to humanity. He was the example. He was what they all were, deep down, stubborn, creative, refusing to accept no as an answer, taking the universe's harsh realities and laughing in their face. I had read the phrase before, in the Human Cultural Database. Someone had coined it years ago when humanity first joined Galactic Society. HFY. Humanity expletive, yeah. Now I understood it. Now I got the joke. The entire species was one big cosmic middle finger to anyone who said something could not be done. And we had just invited them to join a military campaign. I poured myself a drink, one of the strong Colothian spirits that usually helped with stress. It did not help. I poured another. Tomorrow the Korvax would attack again. And Marcus Thorne would be waiting, unable to see his targets, perfectly capable of hitting them anyway. The universe, I decided, had a very strange sense of humor, and humans were the punchline that somehow always won. The Korvax came back 3 days later. Of course they did. Because apparently losing 73 warriors to a single sniper was not enough of a hint that maybe, just maybe, they should reconsider their life choices. But no, the Korvax were nothing if not persistent. Persistently stupid, but persistent nonetheless. This time, they brought friends. Lots of friends. Our sensors picked up over 1,000 heat signatures moving through the canyon network. Heavy armor, artillery support, air units. They were not messing around anymore. They wanted Firebase Delta gone, and they were willing to throw an entire battalion at us to make it happen. I called an emergency command meeting. Captain Park arrived with Marcus and 2 other members of her team. Lieutenant Crix had his tactical displays ready. The holographic map of the surrounding terrain floated in the center of the room, red dots indicating enemy positions. "Well," I said, staring at the overwhelming number of hostiles. "This is problematic." "That is one word for it," Crix muttered. "Sir, standard protocol says we should request reinforcements and prepare for a fighting retreat." "How long until reinforcements arrive?" Park asked. "Boom. 2 days," I said. "Minimum. Possibly 3 if they encounter resistance on approach." "We will be dead in 6 hours," Marcus said from his position near the wall. He was not looking at the map, obviously, but somehow he had positioned himself to be in the conversation without being in the way. "They are moving fast. Coordinated. They learned from the last engagement. They will hit us hard and they will hit us soon. Your assessment?" I asked Park. "Marcus is right," she said, studying the map. "They are coming at us from 3 directions. Classic pincer movement. They will use the artillery to suppress our defensive positions while the main force advances. The air units will target our command structure and supply depot. It is a good plan. Solid tactics. They have been paying attention." "So we are doomed," Crix said flatly. "I did not say that," Park replied with a smile that was somehow more terrifying than reassuring. "I said it was a good plan. Good plans can be disrupted." "How?" I demanded. "We have maybe 200 combat-effective troops. They have 1,000. We have light defensive emplacements. They have heavy armor. The math does not work in our favor, Captain." "The math never works in humanity's favor," Marcus said. "We are kind of bad at math when it comes to military engagements. We just do things anyway and hope for the best. That is not a strategy, I protested. No, Park agreed. It is a philosophy. And it works more often than you would think. She leaned over the map, her fingers tracing the enemy approach routes. Here is what we are going to do. Marcus, you are going to delay their main force. Target their command elements, their heavy weapons platforms, anything that looks important. 1 sniper against 1,000 hostiles? Crix said. That is suicide. Not if I do not let them get close enough to shoot back, Marcus said. Captain, what range am I working with? Your main force will be moving through the Eastern Valley, Park said. You will have clear sight lines from the northern plateau at ranges between 2,500 and 3,500 meters. Once they get closer than 2,000 meters, you will need to relocate to the western ridge. Relocating under fire while blind, I said. Certainly. Why not? Let us add that to the list of impossible things humans do before breakfast. Marcus grinned. Actually, I usually do my impossible things after breakfast. Better energy levels. Park continued as if we had not spoken. Commander Vex, I need your heavy weapons teams positioned here, here, and here. She indicated points on the map, overlapping fields of fire. Create a kill zone at the 1,500-meter mark. When the Korvax advance into it, they will be slowed by casualties and confused by the crossfire. And their artillery? Crix asked. Their air support? Leave that to us, Park said. She glanced at the 2 humans she had brought with her. Lopez, Grant, you 2 are on counter-battery duty. Find their artillery positions and light them up. I do not care how you do it. Just make those guns stop shooting. Lopez, a stocky human with burn scars on his arms, nodded. We can do, Captain. We will need the demolition supplies from the armory. Take what you need, I said. I was past the point of questioning human tactics. If they wanted to solve an artillery problem with explosives and optimism, who was I to argue? What about the air units? I asked. I will handle those personally, Park said. She had a look in her eyes that I had learned to recognize. It was the look humans got right before they did something inadvisable. I used to fly atmospheric fighters back on Earth. I am a little rusty, but I think I remember how. We do not have atmospheric fighters, I pointed out. No, Park agreed. But you have those old Calothian transport shuttles in the hangar. They have weapons hard points, right? Those are cargo transports, Crix protested. Yeah. They are not designed for combat. They are slow, poorly armored, and have minimal offensive capability. So they are perfect, Park said. The Korvax will not expect a cargo shuttle to start shooting at them. Element of surprise. It is kind of our whole thing. I looked at Lieutenant Crix. He looked at me. We both looked at the humans. They looked back at us with expressions of complete confidence. You are all insane, I said. Probably, Marcus agreed. But we are the fun kind of insane, the kind that wins battles. 2 hours later, we were in position. I watched from the command center as our sensors tracked the Korvax advance. They were moving in formation, professional and organized. Their artillery had set up on the far ridge line and was already ranging our positions. Test shots landed in the valley, throwing up plumes of dirt and rock. Marcus, you in position? Park's voice crackled over the comm. Affirmative, Marcus replied. He was back on the northern plateau, Jackson beside him. I have eyes on the main force. Well, ears technically. But you know what I mean. Range? 3,200 meters and closing. I count 6 heavy weapon platforms, 12 light armor vehicles, approximately 800 infantry. Command cluster is in the center of the formation. 3 high-value targets. Probably officers. Take them, Park ordered. With pleasure. The first shot echoed across the valley. Through our observation systems, I watched one of the Korvax officers collapse. The formation stumbled, confused. They had not expected fire at this range. Nobody expected fire at this range. Nobody sane, anyway. Marcus fired again. Another officer down. Then a third shot, and the final officer fell. The Korvax main force lost cohesion immediately. Without clear command, they started making mistakes. Bunching up. Exposing themselves. Switching to vehicle targets, Marcus said calmly. He could have been discussing the weather. Jackson, I am hearing a lot of electromagnetic interference from the second platform on the left. Power plant? Confirmed, Jackson said. Looks like a mobile generator for their energy weapons. Not for long, Marcus said. The shot took 4 seconds to reach the target. The mobile generator exploded in a ball of blue-white energy that consumed 2 nearby vehicles and sent infantry scattering. The Korvax were now scrambling, trying to find cover, trying to identify where the shots were coming from. They were looking in all the wrong places. Artillery is firing, Crix announced. Incoming. The shells screamed overhead, impacting around our defensive positions. The base shook. Alarms blared. Damage reports flooded in. Nothing critical yet, but it was only a matter of time. Lopez Grant, Park said over the comm. Are you in position? Oh yeah, Lopez replied. He sounded entirely too happy. We found their guns, and Captain, you are going to love this. They set up right next to their ammunition depot. Are you saying what I think you are saying? Park asked. Well, I am saying we are about to make a really, really big boom, Lopez confirmed. Fire in the hole. The explosion was visible from the command center. The entire ridgeline lit up like a miniature sun. The Korvax artillery position simply ceased to exist, replaced by a mushroom cloud of fire and debris. Secondary explosions rippled across the hillside as ammunition cooked off. Yep, Grant said. That was satisfying. Artillery neutralized, Lopez added, heading back to base. The Korvax air units appeared moments later. 6 fighters, sleek and fast, their weapons already charging. They dove towards Firebase Delta, their targeting systems locking onto our command center, our supply depot, our power generators. Then Captain Park's cargo shuttle, a bulky, ungainly transport that had no business being in a dogfight, rose from behind the western ridge and opened fire. The lead Korvax fighter exploded, just exploded. One moment it was there, the next it was flaming wreckage tumbling from the sky. Surprise! Park shouted over the comm. She sounded delighted. Bet you Bugs did not see that coming. The remaining 5 fighters scattered, trying to evade. Park pursued in the cargo shuttle, which should have been impossible because cargo shuttles cannot pursue fighters. They are too slow and too cumbersome. Except Park was making it work through sheer force of will and what I suspected was completely illegal maneuvering. Someone remind me, Crix said, watching the aerial battle. How did humans ever survive long enough to develop spaceflight? Spite, I said, and an apparent immunity to common sense. Another Korvax fighter fell, then a third. Park was flying the cargo shuttle like it was a racing craft, pulling turns that should have torn the frame apart, using the terrain to her advantage, setting up ambushes in valleys and canyons. The remaining 3 fighters tried to regroup, tried to use their superior speed and firepower. It did not help. Park shot them down one by one, whooping with joy over the comm channel after each kill. Air superiority established, she finally announced. That was fun. We should do it again sometime. The shuttle is leaking fuel and on fire, Crix observed, watching the sensor data. Minor details, Park replied. I will put it out after I land. She is insane, Crix muttered. Welcome to working with humans, I said. It does not get better. You just learn to accept it. The Korvax main force had reached the 2,000-meter mark. Marcus had relocated to the western ridge, moving during the chaos of the artillery bombardment and aerial battle. He was firing again, methodically eliminating the heavy weapon platforms one by one. Each shot was perfect. Each target fell. But there were still hundreds of them, and they were getting closer. All defensive teams, Prepare to engage, I ordered. Wait for them to enter the kill zone. The Korvax charged. They had lost their command structure, their artillery support, their air cover, and nearly a third of their fighting force. Any rational species would have retreated, would have regrouped and reconsidered their approach. The Korvax were not rational when they were angry. They were insects. They swarmed. They attacked. They died in droves without fear or hesitation. 1,500 meters. 1,200. 1,100. Now, I ordered. Our heavy weapons opened up. The kill zone erupted in fire and explosions. Korvax warriors fell by the dozens, their armor shredded by overlapping fields of fire. But still they came, charging through the carnage, chittering their war cries. 800 meters. 700. Marcus, Park said. How much ammo do you have left? 2 magazines, Marcus replied. 60 rounds. I can make them count. Do it, Park ordered. Vex, pull your forces back to the secondary defensive line. Make them fight for every meter. We fell back in good order, our troops providing covering fire. The Korvax pursued, their numbers still overwhelming despite their losses. They reached our first defensive positions and began tearing through them with claws and weapons. 500 meters. 400. Marcus was still firing, but now he was not targeting warriors. He was targeting the ground in front of them. His rounds hit the rocky terrain and ricocheted, creating shrapnel, disrupting their formations. It was not as effective as direct hits, but it was buying us time. Captain, Marcus said, I am down to my last magazine. Make it count, Park said. She had landed the burning shuttle and was now on the ground with her own rifle, adding to our defensive fire. 300 meters. The Korvax were so close I could see the individual warriors through my observation scope. He could see the mandibles clicking, the compound eyes reflecting the explosions, the rage driving them forward. Vex, Park said quietly. Do you trust me? I have learned that questioning you is pointless, I said. What do you need? Pull everyone back to the inner perimeter, Park said. Everyone. Right now. That will leave the main gate exposed, Crix protested. I know, Park said. Do it anyway. I hesitated for exactly 2 seconds. Then I gave the order. Our forces retreated rapidly, abandoning the outer defenses, falling back to the core of the base. The Korvax saw the movement and surged forward, sensing victory. They poured through the main gate, hundreds of them, filling the outer courtyard. They were shouting in their clicking language, celebrating their breakthrough. Marcus, Park said, that fuel depot we discussed, the one in the outer courtyard that we evacuated this morning. The one with 3,000 liters of highly flammable fuel? Marcus asked. That would be the one, Park confirmed. Can you hit it from your position? It is only 300 meters, Marcus said. I could hit it with my eyes closed. He paused. Well, more closed. Light it up, Park ordered. Marcus's final shot was not his longest. It was not his most technically impressive. But it was, without question, his most effective. The fuel depot exploded. The outer courtyard became an inferno. Korvax warriors caught in the blast were incinerated instantly. Others tried to flee, only to find that Park had positioned our forces to create a perfect trap. The Korvax had charged into a kill box, and now they were burning alive in it. The screaming was horrific. I had been in combat for 30 years, had seen battles across a dozen worlds. But this was something else. This was what happened when you combined human tactical thinking with their complete lack of restraint. Within 2 minutes, it was over. The Korvax assault force was destroyed, burned, blown apart, or cut down trying to escape. Less than 50 warriors managed to retreat, fleeing back into the canyons in disarray. The silence that followed was deafening. Status report, I said, my voice hoarse. Defensive teams reporting moderate casualties, Crix said. Infrastructure damage is significant, but repairable. Ammunition reserves depleted by 60%. The outer courtyard is completely destroyed. We can rebuild it, Park said. She sounded tired now. The adrenaline was wearing off. It was ugly, but it worked. It was brilliant, I corrected. Horrifying, excessive, and probably violated several articles of the Galactic Warfare Convention. But brilliant. We do not really follow the Galactic Warfare Convention, Marcus said, joining us at the command center. Jackson was guiding him, one hand on his shoulder. We kind of make up our own rules as we go. I noticed, I said dryly. That night, after the fires were put out and the casualties were counted, I found Marcus on the northern plateau. He was sitting on a rock, his rifle case beside him, his face turned towards the stars he could not see. Sergeant Thorne, I said. May I join you? Free Galaxy, Commander, Marcus said. Grab a rock. I sat. For a while we just existed in the silence. Then I asked the question that had been bothering me. Why? I said. You lost your sight. You could have retired with honor. You could have taken a medical discharge. Why keep fighting? Marcus was quiet for a moment. You know what the worst part about going blind was? He finally said. It was not the darkness. I got used to that. It was not the loss of independence. I adapted. It was the pity. Pity? Men. Everyone looked at me like I was broken, Marcus continued. Like I was less than what I was before. The doctors, my family, my fellow soldiers, they all thought my life was over, that I could not contribute anymore, that I should just accept my disability and fade away. And you decided differently, I said. Damn right I did, Marcus said. There was steel in his voice now. I was still the same person, still had the same skills, the same training, the same experience. I just needed to find a new way to use them. So I worked with neural engineers, spent 18 months learning to interpret visual data as sound, trained my brain to process information in ways it was never meant to, failed 1,000 times, got back up 1,001 times. Yes. He paused, a slight smile crossing his face. You know what the best moment was? He asked. The first time I hit a target at 1,500 meters. My instructors said it was impossible. Said no blind person could ever be a precision shooter. I proved them wrong. And then I kept proving them wrong at 1,800 meters, 2,000 meters, 2,500 meters. Every impossibility I overcame was a middle finger to everyone who said I could not. Humans, I said, shaking my head. You are all like this, are you not? You see the word impossible and you take it as a personal challenge. Pretty much, Marcus agreed. It is kind of our thing. We do not accept limitations. We do not believe in cannot. We just believe in not yet. And we keep pushing until not yet becomes already done. It is terrifying, I said honestly. From an outside perspective, your entire species is terrifying. You should not be able to do the things you do. You break the rules of what is possible on a regular basis. Good, Marcus said. The universe needs someone to break the rules sometimes. Keeps things interesting. We sat in silence for a while longer. Then Marcus spoke again, his voice softer. You know what I see now? He asked. What I hear, I mean. When I am up here with my neural interface active, listening to the world around me. What? I asked. Everything, Marcus said. I hear the wind patterns across the valley, the thermal gradients from the cooling rocks, the electromagnetic signatures from our base systems, the heartbeats of my fellow soldiers, the distant sounds of wildlife in the canyons. I hear so much more than I ever saw with my eyes. I process information in ways that fully sighted people never could. Losing my vision did not make me less. It made me different, and different can be powerful. You should be a philosopher, I said. Nah, Marcus said with a laugh. Philosophy does not pay well. Plus, philosophers do not get to shoot things from 2 miles away. That is the real selling point of my career choice. The next morning, reinforcements arrived. The Korvax threat in the sector was eliminated over the following weeks. Fire-based Delta was rebuilt, stronger than before. Captain Park's team rotated out to another assignment. Marcus went with them, off to some other impossible situation that needed a blind sniper. Before they left, Marcus found me in the command center one last time. "It was an honor working with you, Commander," he said, extending his hand. I took it. "The honor was mine, Sergeant. You taught me something important." "Yeah?" Marcus asked. "What is that?" "That humans are going to change everything," I said. "The entire galaxy thinks they know what your species is capable of. They think they have you figured out. They are wrong. You are just getting started." Marcus grinned. "You have no idea, Commander. Can't wait until you see what we do next." He left. I never saw him again, but I heard stories. Stories about the blind sniper who could hit targets through walls by listening to their heartbeats. About the blind sniper who took out an entire command post from 4 miles away during a sandstorm. About the blind sniper who somehow shot down 3 enemy aircraft with a rifle that was not designed for anti-air work. I did not know if the stories were true. With Marcus Thorne, with humans in general, it was impossible to tell where reality ended and legend began. Maybe it did not matter. Maybe the point was that humans made the impossible look routine so often that even the legends seemed plausible. I retired from military service 3 years later. I wrote a book about my experiences, about the humans I had served with, about the blind sniper who redefined what was possible. Some people thought it was fiction. Some people thought I was exaggerating. I was not. If anything, I was understating things. Because the truth about humanity was stranger and more terrifying and more inspiring than any fiction could be. They were blind snipers who hit targets from 2 miles away. They were pilots who flew cargo shuttles into dogfights and won. They were engineers who turned fuel depots into tactical weapons. They were demolition experts who created small suns. They were humanity. And they were just getting started. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. But I did. I had seen it firsthand. I had watched them turn defeat into victory through sheer stubborn refusal to accept reality's limitations. The Korvax learned. Eventually, after losing 3 more major engagements to human forces, they sued for peace. They joined the Galactic Council as a non-hostile member state. They claimed it was a strategic decision. I think they were just scared of what humans would do next, scared of a species that treated impossible as a warm-up exercise. And honestly, I did not blame them. I was a little scared too, but I was also hopeful. Because if humans could turn a blind man into the galaxy's most effective sniper, if they could win battles they had no business winning, if they could look at the universe's harsh realities and just laugh and keep going anyway, then maybe the rest of us could learn to do the same. Maybe humanity's real gift to the galaxy was not their technology or their tactics or their stubborn refusal to die. Maybe it was their belief that nothing was truly impossible. You just had to be willing to try, and try again, and keep trying until impossible became accomplished. That was the human way. That was Marcus Thorne's way. And that was why, despite all the chaos and terror and absolute insanity of working with them, I would not have changed a single moment of it. The human was blind. He still sniped from 2 miles away. And somehow, impossibly, perfectly, that made complete sense, because he was human, and humans do not know when to quit.